someone comes up to you with a little bit of despair in their eye and asks you, can you please be the last person that we need to be able to sign up for this club? And you go, all right, well, what club is it? The Underwater Basket Weaving Club. And inside you're thinking, I don't really like water. I don't know how to weave, and I don't have time for this. But what comes out of your mouth is, sure, sign me up. You can count on me. And as those words enter into the world, you try to pull them back and stuff them in, but you've already committed. You've already launched their underwater basket weaving thing, and you're now trying to figure out, all right, what do we do with this now? Maybe a hypothetical club isn't the thing for you, but maybe it's this. Coach says, hey, we have an optional training camp this week. And you realize by optional, they mean if you don't go to it, you don't play. And so you say yes. And yeah, we have these workouts that are in the morning. You don't have to do them, but you say yes to that. And your theater coach says, hey, how about you go on this trip to experience a large theater in another place? And so you say yes to that. And your advisor says, well, you really should take these extra classes, these honors classes, because that's going to help you in college. And so you find yourself doing that. Meanwhile, your parents say, get a job. And so you get a job. And your boss says, hey, you're a great worker. How about, can you pick up this extra shift? And you need the money, so you do that too. And there's responsibilities at home, there's friendships you're trying to maintain, there's things that you're trying to do. And even as a teenager, you can end up pulled in all sorts of directions. This is where we find ourselves oftentimes in life. We find ourselves at the crossroads. And we're looking at the different options that we have. And trying to figure out which path do I go down, which choice do I make, which thing do I do. And so often as we're at these crossroads, we think having all these options, having all these opportunities, this is a good thing, this is great. But are we really well served by all these different opportunities, all these different choices that we have? And by saying yes to all of them? There's a Lutheran school in St. Louis that was connected to a school in Uganda. And they were connecting the student bodies together and decided something fun to do. They were going to have a segment of each student body do a presentation about how great it is to live in the other place. So the students from Uganda shared about all the opportunities we have in America. The grocery stores and the sports and the entertainment and the media, all the things that we get to do. And the rebuttal from the American students was pretty simple. Yeah, but you're happy. We have all these things, all these opportunities, all these things we can do, but we're not happy. In fact, the more choices we have, the less satisfied we are in the choices we do make, because we spend our time thinking, well, I chose this path, and the entire time I'm walking on that path, what am I thinking? I wonder what would happen if I'd gone over there. I wonder if I'd done this. What am I missing out over here? And so even when we do make these decisions, we end up overwhelmed. And there's no shortage of things that we can be connected to. We end up a lot like this, like a surge protector, and we've got all these things plugged in, all these connections, and we don't realize we're a walking fire hazard because we have so many things that are pulling from us. And we don't realize this because this has been normalized for us. See, in American culture, we take busyness, take being overwhelmed, take being stressed as a badge of honor rather than a cry for help. And in this type of a world, where there's so many things to say yes to, there's so many things to be overwhelmed by. The question that we have to ask is, what does faith have to do with this? How is my faith going to help me to keep going? To help me to do all the things that I want to do? To help me achieve and to be the person that I want to do? This is the question that we wonder. And the first option that I think we end up with is, well, your faith inspires you to be better, to do your best, to keep going. And so we'll have different verses that are picked out, that are our favorites, that'll tell us we can keep going, that'll encourage us along the way. And that's what our faith does for us. As if God's this cheerleader on the sideline saying, keep going, you're awesome, you can do it. When I was in elementary school, I used to be fast. Like, we did a race in PE from one side of the parking lot to the other. I don't know how many yards it was. It felt like it was a mile. It was probably like a 100-yard dash. And I finished in first out of our class. And so my PE teacher said, you should do cross country. There's a meet this Saturday. And I said, sure, because I had everything that I needed. I was fast. I knew some key Bible verses. Right? Isaiah 40, 30 and 31, even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not be faint. I even had that memorized to a song. And so I was ready to go. I knew everything that was going on. And so Saturday morning rolls around. And they have everyone all at the starting line. There's about 140 people there. And we're all gathered on one side of the football field. And I'm in there thinking, I am speed. This was way before Lightning McQueen. I'm pretty sure he stole it from me because third grade Brandon went, man, I was ready to go. And so they shoot out the starting gun and I take off. My eyes fixed on the end of the football field. I'm running, I make it to the end, and all of a sudden I see someone going like this. And I have to keep going. And I was not ready for that. So I turn around the corner and realize we're not just running the football field, we're running around the entire campus. And right as I turn the corner, in my head, I'm thinking, they will soar on wings like eagle. They will run and not grow weary. But what it sounds like is, they will. Turns out I have asthma. I did not know this at the time. But I was equipped. I knew the Bible. I was inspired. I was encouraged. And so I kept going. I finished 137th place out of 140 runners. You see, it's not about knowing all the right verses and being inspired to be the best version of yourself. That's not the role the Scripture primarily plays. Right? God is not on the sidelines saying, keep going, try harder, do more. He's at the base of a cross saying, it is finished. The Bible cannot just be an inspiring book of quotes to help you to be better in your life. Because what happens is whether we have asthma or not, we run out. We end up tired, worn out, and trying to figure out what's next. See, our faith can't simply be inspirational words for us. And so here's the second option. And this is what most of us do. Is when life gets tough, when we're stressed, when we're burdened, when we're burnt out, what do we do with our faith? We set it to the side until things lighten up. When my schedule gets better, then I'll come back to church. Yeah, I'll make time for youth group, for Bible study, for devotions, when I have room in my schedule. We take our faith and we set it to the side. with all good intentions of when things do change, that we'll pick it back up. To illustrate how this works, I brought with me an artifact from history, straight out of the museum. Any of you guys know what this is? It's a VHS tape, right? This one in particular is Rack, Shack, and Benny from the VeggieTales. Right? Now, anytime I travel with one of these, I get nervous. Because they ask you at TSA, any electronic, a phone or larger, you got to take out of your bag. And I go, what do I do? Some of y'all have phones that are this big, but so I decided the TSA is known for their humor. I'll just ask them. So one time I was traveling, I just pulled it out and asked the TSA agent, what do I do with this VHS tape? And she looked at me. I don't think she'd gotten that question before, shockingly enough. She goes, oh, honey, you can keep that in your bag. You see, here's the thing about VHS tapes. This thing hasn't been played for 15 years. And yet if I put it in a VCR, where's it going to start? The exact place where it left off. The DVD or the Blu-ray, they're going to go back to the menu after like 5 minutes. Netflix is going to judge you. Are you still watching? The VHS doesn't do that. It knows, it remembers, it'll pick up exactly where you left off. And here's the thing, most of us treat our faith just like this. I'm going to set it to the side as well. Things are really busy, I'm really stressed. I'm going to set it to the side. I'll pick it back up later. With every intention of when I pick it back up, it's going to be exactly where I left it off. But here's the problem. That's not how it works. See, when we set our faith to the side, when we think it's just something that we can conveniently fit into our life, rather than the very words that give us life, we end up treating our faith as if it's this optional thing. And the problem is, when Satan sees that, he jumps. He's a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. He goes after us when we're isolated, when we're alone, and begins to convince us, well, you haven't been to church in a while. Do you really need to go? It would be weird if you went back, right? People would probably look at you weird. So maybe we'll just leave that to the side. It's like Jesus says here in John 15. I am the vine, you the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. For apart from me, Jesus says, you can do whatever you want as long as you try. That's not what it says, at least not in this translation, maybe in the Message, but not what we have here. Apart from me, you can do nothing. Our faith is not something that we pick up when we need it and we set aside when it's not convenient. And we have people that do this all the time. So 5 years ago in the pandemic, a whole bunch of people did this with their faith. And a lot of them haven't picked it back up. And it's been 5 years. So many young people, when they go off to college, they go, I'm not going to get connected to a church. I don't really need this. I'll get connected later. When I get settled, when I do that. And the problem is, after all of that is said and done, don't pick it back up. Because faith is not meant to be something that we carry with us only when it's convenient. It is the very thing that gives us life. See, the problem with all of this is when we're at the crossroads of life, when we're trying to figure out, do I make this choice or that choice? Am I involved in this or that? How do I keep going? We focus so much on the road, and it leads us into the wrong direction. Instead, at the crossroads of life, we're meant to focus on the cross. When we focus on the cross, what we find is not inspiration, not a God who's waiting for us to figure things out, who's cheerleading us from the side, but instead we find a God who gives us rest. And endurance requires rest. That's what Jesus says in Matthew 11. Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. If you want to endure, you want to keep going, you need to rest. And that rest is found in Christ alone. And we hear that, and we go, okay, but I don't have time for that. Thanks, that's not sounding advice. I'll do it later. Here's what's at stake if we don't do this. If you don't rest, if you don't take care of yourself, if you don't live within the system of rest that God has designed for you, here's what happens. Your health is going to suffer. When do most people get sick? After they've been ignoring all the body's signs. You need to slow down, you need to stop, you need to sleep. And we ignore all those things, and it impacts our health. When you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, who are the people that you take it out on the most? The people that are closest to you. When parents are overwhelmed and stressed, it impacts their kids. When we're stretched beyond our capacity, we end up hurting the people that God has placed uniquely in our lives to care for the most. And when we don't have any margin, any room to work with, any energy, any time, when God places opportunities right in front of us to care and to support one another, you know what we end up doing? Just like in the parable of the Good Samaritan, we walk on the other side because I don't have time for help. And perhaps even more focused, we don't even notice because we're so busy with whatever it is we think that we have to do. See, if we don't rest, it kills our witness, it kills our vocations, it damages our own health and our ability to be who God has created you for. The gift that God has given to you, if you don't rest, we find ourselves burnt out and unable to do what God has called us to do. You see, the issue with this picture is not that it's connected to a bunch of things. The issue with this picture is that power strip is not connected to an outside source of power. You'll notice, what's it plugged into? Itself. So many of us, we're connected to all these things, all these opportunities, things that we think we have to do. And yet nothing's pouring into us. That's why we can't keep going. That's why as a society, we're stretched at our wits' end. Because we're pouring into others, but no one's pouring it into us. And that's where our faith informs us. You see, you have to rest like your future depends on it. Because it does. We don't just rest at the very end when my body forces me to and I kind of go in a coma for 2 days. No, we have to rest intentionally, regularly. Because your future does depend on it. The ability of you to carry out the mission that God has given to you, the vocations He's placed you with, the gifts He's given to you, all depends on the ability to endure, to keep going. And that requires you to rest.